Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this continuation of the public hearing of the Washington Planning Commission to order. I'm going to seat myself and Dimmy and Carol and David. Those are the only commissioners present. I note that the quorum is present and that all four of us were present at the onset of the public hearing. Okay, so this is a public hearing for an application, Arthur H. Holland and Associates for Schiller 37 Popple Swamp Road, a 5-lot subdivision. Shelley, we had a few items that we still needed when we continued the hearing last month. Have we received, what have we? Okay.
So here's the health approval.
That we have.
The request for waiver of the appraisal in fee in lieu of open space. Requesting fee in lieu of open space and a waiver of the appraisal requirement.
Right, okay. All right. So this, I believe at that point, those were the items that were missing. Is that correct?
And I just wanted to make note that we did get back the receipts, the green cards for certified mailings for the abutting property owners.
Okay. Okay. All right. So in terms of items on our checklist that appears to be complete, the public hearing is still open. We would entertain any comments on anything new or whatever from the public. Marjorie, I believe if you would like, grab a seat and just tell the commission who you are and who you represent, that would be great.
Thank you. I'm astonished that you're not hearing from the applicant, but
The applicant's representative is here.
I understand.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that there was not going to be any commentary forthcoming. Be
That's
that as it
okay.
may,
He was at the last meeting and spoke very little, actually.
I listened to that tape.
Okay, so.
Let me introduce myself. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky. And I'm here with Mark Landcor, who's a professional engineer from Dymar. And actually, Mark, if you'd like to join me at the table, we can probably
Sure,
make this quite efficient.
sure, go ahead.
In a
Whatever
certain
seat
kind of
is-
way.
Whichever one you want. This is a small town.
the dog. Because the dog looks so cute.
That's okay.
You can bribe him with green beans.
Yeah.
I wish I'd brought some.
Should we,
I have some.
let me just state for the record first, in case there's any doubts, we should just state for the record that Attorney Shansky and the chair have actually been friends for many years, but that would in no way affect anything that will be transpiring this evening.
It may be more important to state for the record that we played music together.
Yes, right. For many years.
For many years.
It's like,
I had brown hair when I started.
I had hair when we started. And it was, and she can attest, it was blonde, right?
I have that recollection,
Mhm.
among very few recollections. So-
Yeah.
In any
Go ahead.
case, my office represents Su Ming and Antonius Kufarat, who are the owners of property at 75 Upper Churchill Road, which is directly across the street from the subject property. And they and several of their neighbors have registered their concern about this application. And I have to say that when I came to Town Hall and looked through the file, both of the wetlands application and of the planning application, I was struck by what I would characterize as omissions from the required regulatory production that makes an applicant eligible for the approval that it seeks. So your regulations at section 3.6.1 provide license for the commission to deny an application when you determine that the application is incomplete. And from my comments and Mr. Landcor's comments, we'd like to sort of establish that. And I know you're the plan commission, but I do want to say a few words with your leave about the wetlands approval. And I say this because having reviewed the file, having listened to the tape of their meeting and the tape of your meeting in which Ms. White referred to the commission having approved the application and but characterizing it as conceptual.
You're talking about wetlands right
I'm
now.
talking about wetlands
okay.
on my way to
Okay.
the planning application. But they're integrally related because they're at wetlands for a planning referral as to the viability of this, of the
We
subdivision
understand.
and coming back later for individual lot development. But the superficiality, if I can use that word, of the wetlands application was to me astonishing because it didn't include things like a functions and values analysis of the wetlands on the site. And even though I appreciate that the lots are subject to later development, that access road and the easements or rights of way that lead to the lots are going to have to precede subsequent lot development. And those should very much have been the subject of thorough wetland review, in my perspective. And when the Wetlands Commission made its finding that this application complies with the evaluation criteria of section 11.2 of the wetlands regulations, there's nothing in the record that even meets the production requirements of section 11.2 in terms of the wetlands and adverse impacts. So I would also state that the Wetlands Commission reviewed the revised plan that was the subject of the hearing in August before this commission. I think it was the August 27th revision that was before you was never before wetlands where the access ways were merged. And that is reason enough under the wetlands conditions and under the wetlands regulations to have it sent back to wetlands even before it gets to the individual lot development, where they can perhaps amplify their record, require production from the applicant to really establish its eligibility for that approval or that positive referral that was sent to this commission as well, because I think given the wetlands at the opening, at the access way, constitutes a significant impact activity under the wetland regulations, should have had a public hearing and should have been required to show feasible and prudent alternatives. And I apologize and thank you for your grace in letting me.
That's okay, but yeah, it's fine. You're not talking about us, you're talking about the Wetlands Commission.
Well,
So
and
that's
but
fine.
I'm talking about the application as it has come to you.
I understand, and basically can I just summarize?
Sure.
What you're basically saying is that when the wetlands reviewed this for subdivision purposes, they were working off of the prior version, which had basically the double wide access.
Correct.
Which has been since revised to what we see here now, which is the existing single wide.
Right, but
I get it.
but still omitted things like the soils reporting and the functions and values analysis
Okay,
of the receiving
Well,
resources.
For us, we're not able to speak to that, but we get you in terms of the double wide to single wide.
And the salutary reason that they need to really see it again. And my final comment about them is that there's a note on the plan that there is no hotspot from the Natural Diversity Database that DEEP maintains for endangered and listed species.
Mhm.
But there's no NDDB letter, there's just this representation on the plans. And if there were a letter from DEEP, from NDDB, it would say, as every letter from DEEP says, this is not a substitute for a site-specific survey. So in summary, there's precious little information upon which the Wetlands Commission acted when they sent this to the Planning Commission. And given the material change to the entryway, it would be delightful if it were returned to them for that review. Now, the other basis, and I apologize for the redundancy, applicants in Connecticut before any land use agency have the burden of establishing their eligibility for the permit they seek.
Yes.
And in retrospect, that was wanting at the Wetlands Commission, and our position is that it's wanting under your subdivision plan, even as revised. And I want to, I see that you have this writing, although I haven't read it, regarding the seeking of waiver for using the purchase price as the basis for the fee in lieu relating to the open space. We do witness or suggest that Section 7, stormwater management in your regulations has not been met. Section 8, there's no solar analysis. Section 10 on fire protection, all for reasons that Mr. Landcore will discuss with you. Including in section 10.2.1, things that this commission can require, even the absence of the fire marshal. You have jurisdiction and authority under circumstances that would invite you to take action.
Yes.
I would submit that that exists on the plan you've been presented. Section 11.2 on-site sewage disposal systems, that letter dated August 13th is not adequate to stand for an approval. It labels itself as a concept plan.
Yes, we have subsequently received sign off from the Houstonic Valley Health District.
A new letter, a subsequent to August 13th
This
letter.
is the August 13th.
This is, that's the one you're referring from.
That is the one.
You're referring to the letter from the Health District.
I am, and Mr. Landcore will direct his comments to that. We still don't see the easements for the rights of way, which I saw or heard in the commentary from the prior hearing that the chair inquired about stormwater. Mr. Szymanski responded that, made two sort of comments about how things work, but there's nothing in the file from which to glean, study, or infer that your regulations are met. Because there's no narrative, no stormwater management, no nothing. Section 4.7.1 and its subsections, site-specific narratives for stormwater management facilities. So, and I guess maybe I will go just one step further and then maybe not need to say too much after Mark Landcore speaks. The idea that plans are conceptual, referring either back to the wetlands one or to the comment in the August 13th letter of the Health District. I want to cite to a case called Marion Road Association versus Westport Planning and Zoning, a case with which council may be familiar. And it was a special permit, but not a subdivision, but special permits are very similar to subdivisions insofar as they are administrative reviews by planning commissions. They're not variances or wetlands.
Yeah, well, you're talking about a combined P and Z in this case.
Well, but
We have separate. here.
understood,
Yeah.
but the point is that
We
one
don't, as a planning commission, we don't have special permit process.
understood, but I'm just saying from a legal perspective, they're very the same. They are administrative. If the application meets the special permit criteria, that commission is required to grant that permit in the same way that if an application meets your subdivision, it goes to the level of discretion that you guys have, and in the administrative review, it's very limited.
Okay.
If the plan meets the regulations, you get the permit.
Mhm.
And the challenge in this particular case was like a 16-count complaint about the siting of a house of worship. But the soil erosion and sediment control plan, which I'm not equating this with because there is a narrative about soil erosion and sediment control in this application, but this health department letter talking about concept plans was part of the claim of the plaintiffs about why the approval by the commission was inappropriate. And the court analyzed the regulation and the requirement that was not being met other than by a concept. You know, a concept is not a plan. It's an idea that may develop into a plan. It may develop unchanged into a plan, but it may not be the plan. And the plan is what is being reviewed. And the court said, after the analysis, no such plan was filed by the applicant. To allow the applicant's conceptual plan to pass muster would trivialize these requirements into a consciousness-raising exercise rather than as obligatory regulations.
I gotta give the judge kudos for his sense of humor.
Well, and that's a citation from Terry Tondro's Connecticut Land Use Regulation tome, which was guiding.
We
document.
have that.
Oh, well, there you
The
go.
Bar review,
Yeah.
the one that's like this thick, yeah,
Correct.
we all have a copy.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
page 335, if you're looking.
Well,
So, but the point here, the serious point here is that, and Mark will discuss it from an engineering perspective, you don't have an approved plan. You have a very sort of high altitude, yeah, these lots can be developed. But that doesn't tell you the manner in which they are, and it certainly doesn't meet the standard in your regulations. And those are the bases on which we find ourselves here with you this evening. I do have just sort of a summary, but I'll hand it over to my engineer.
Thanks, Marjorie. For the public record, my name's Mark Blankford. I'm just gonna give you my resume, just so you have it.
Fine,
Just
so noted
just so it's on the record.
for the time.
And I'm the principal engineer with Dymore in Southbury. So, you know, we were just brought in to look at it from a technical review.
Sure.
To see if there's anything there that at least should be paramount for the commission to at least be aware of before making your decision.
Fair enough.
You know, so, with regards to the septic, this is an unusual letter that I don't typically see from the health district. Usually the health district I get is what they call complete technical feasibility. And there's usually not inserts of may or we may require, because that may require means that something that could be required, that's not really relevant to what the public is seeing. And I give a perfect
As
example.
opposed to shall.
Yeah, exactly. So one of those is specific of, all these things can be resolved. The question is, I just want to make sure that the commission is aware. One of those is specifically to curtain drains. And I'm very familiar with Housatonic Valley, the Housatonic Valley Health District, only
Excuse
because.
me, could you keep your voice up?
Sure. Okay,
Thank
no,
you.
you're welcome. Is the notion that the district traditionally would always, anything that has modeling less than 24 inches requires a curtain drain regardless. That has been their policy. And in fact, when it goes 24 to 30 inches, they still can require it. In this situation, all these lots have modeling that are less than 24 inches. You are going to be required, no matter what, to do a curtain drain, which then should be shown on the drawings, because those discharge points are of interest in terms of where they located relative to the wetlands and the wetlands regulated area. That will change from what the commission has viewed to what they could potentially get. So with that in a vacuum, the public doesn't really know. So that's one area that I see that, from a health standpoint, all these lots should be shown with curtain drains and where their discharge point is relative to the septic system and the wetland system. That's just a comment. Regarding the aspects of the fire marshal gave their comment.
Mhm.
And obviously in your regulations, you can require a cistern or whatever for fire protection. This is a very large piece of property, with very lengthy driveways servicing lots 4 and 5 specifically. That from that component alone, if there is a fire or something that concerns and you're over 5 lots, traditionally what I've seen in my own practice throughout the state, typically that's kind of like the threshold, 5 lots. When you get to 5 lots, they generally want to see a 10,000 gallon tank that's placed because of the location, and especially when you're in a rural area, the access to water can be very difficult, and trucks do not have all the capacity to put out a fire. So I'm just bringing that up to your attention.
Mhm.
The other is that through the concept, through the tapes, there was a question in terms of the ability, and the fire marshal noted that he could get access to all these lots. Well, I will have to disagree with regards to turning movements. When you take a look at specifically how you get to lot 4, okay, and even lot 5, you have some very, very difficult movements that are following those curves. And those radiuses on those curves are 25-foot radiuses. There is no way any fire vehicle is gonna make that. And what typically I would see in any kind of application was that I would contact the fire department and ask for their most stringent vehicle that would have to traverse to any kind of property, and making sure that I have those turning movements and demonstrate to a commission, to the public. Because the other thing is, somebody's gonna live here someday. Regardless of this situation here, somebody's gonna live here. You do not want to be approving something in which technically it's not feasible to actually complete that movement without, some sort of potential that the vehicle can't get there because the surface is not available to
I
it.
understand.
So I'm just suggesting to you that you need to have the consultant actually provide you with turning movements to the worst case vehicle of the fire department to make sure that they can get to those houses without having, on the driveway.
Okay, didn't I specifically ask that of the fire marshal? I asked about the turning radiuses and the need for a cistern. He did not comment on the cistern, but I thought he commented on.
His, I'm gonna read to you exactly what he said.
Good, yeah, please.
No, this is, I reviewed the plan submitted for the subdivision at 37 Popple Swamp by Howland Associates. Access to the properties is adequate for emergency vehicles. Having a cistern in the area and available for the use by the fire department in the event of structure is not a bad idea. However, it's not his authority and does not allow me to require this by code on a residential property. Now, I don't know how the fire marshal or, anybody could have made that claim that it was adequate if you did not have a plan that showed turning movements. And those are not in this application. So it's either by just assumption, by looking at the plan, thinking, okay, I can make it. But I can tell you as a professional engineer who's done this for 37 years, there is no way that an emergency vehicle is gonna make it to those lots based on the current geometry of the driveways. Okay. Okay, so that gets me now to drainage. Now, your drainage is very specific under section 7.0. And then again, there is no shall, may, or whatever. It's specific to, and I'll read it to you, right on the first section. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, but I'm just gonna make sure it's part of the public record. Under section 7.1.1, the stormwater drainage system shall provide for drainage from the entire parcel and shall take into account land outside the parcel that drains across the parcel. So first and foremost, you just don't look at your own property, you have to look outside. The overall stormwater drainage system shall be designed so that the peak runoff rate at all points where the stormwater leaves the property does not exceed the rate existing prior to the development. There is nothing in your public record that gives you the ability to make that determination because the applicant has not provided you with a drainage report. That also goes to Connecticut DEP. This is 11 acres of disturbance, and if you read the Connecticut DEP stormwater manual that was adopted and revised in March of this year, this applicant has not met those thresholds. They're specific in that, in terms of the DEP manual.
They were
What-
revised in March of this year?
March of this year
The 2004 manual.
was revised in March of this year, and they're much more rigorous. So, I mean,
They
we've,
were revised.
yeah, and I mean, I got caught in the middle on several jobs where we were doing one thing, they were revised and then we submitted, and of course, you gotta go back and you gotta go back and redo everything. But even to that extent, there is nothing, you're specific, your regulations are definitely specific of what your expectations are of an applicant. And the applicant here has not met that threshold. So I'm not gonna tell him how to do his job, but I'm going to point out the fact that it's not complete.
Okay, can I go back just to ask a question
Yeah, sure.
about the curtain drains?
Mhm.
Could the inclusion of curtain drains on this plan be a condition of approval?
I think they're gonna end up finding out that they're going to end up dumping into the regulated upland review area to the Wetlands Commission, and then they should go back to the Wetlands Commission.
They're gonna have to go back to the Wetlands Commission anyway.
So I'm just saying that to me is, and then you are gonna be in a position that you've got a revised application on top of revised application, which gotta come back to you. So to me, it's like, why would I go through that? The fact that there's deficiencies here, I would just, ask them to just withdraw and resubmit or do whatever they have to do. There's another section, and this is in the zoning regulations, which you, as a planning commission, still have to abide,
Yes.
have to abide by. So under 12.1.3 of the regulations, which is under section 12, which is district supplementary regulations,
Mhm.
there's a specific section 12.1.3 that speaks that no part of a leaching field for any sewage disposal system shall be located within 100 feet of any spring, watercourse, or lake, or within 50 feet of any human habitation other than the building served. Now, the only reason I'm pointing that out is because on the map, on lots 1 and 2, which I have a whole different opinion of, lot 1 and 2, there are 2 notations along the road that say intermittent stream. Well, that's an intermittent water course. Again, those areas should have a buffer area shown around it that is 100 feet. That should be part of this application and also part of the wetlands application, because that is a regulated area, which was deficiently not included in the wetlands application itself. So, so when I start looking at the whole thing, there are components here that are just been missing, that if they were there, maybe somebody would have made it rendered a different opinion. Which comes specifically to, even to the drainage. On lot number 2, the applicant does show the outlet for a footing drain and a roof drain. And they've obviously recognized that there is an intermittent water course because they provided a drainage pipe there that's not sized for anything. It's just shown as a concept, but nothing there specific. But all the other lots, there is nothing there that shows where the footing drains or the roof drains go, what the finished floor elevations would be, or the bottom basement floor elevations would be. Because you need that information in order to establish what the elevations would be for those footing drains to discharge the daylight. So again, there's some technical deficiencies here that if they at least provided that would provide the commission with a full information to make a decision.
Can you clarify for me is that requirement actually in our regulations?
So it's part of your drainage. Part of drainage.
But that's the zoning regulation.
No,
That,
Oh,
no,
it's
no,
part-
no,
oh, it's like-
your subdivision regulations specific talk about drainage in terms of
I
under drains
realize
and
that,
all
but-
that, roof drains and everything else. Yes.
I'm sorry, I was confused of whether you were talking about section 12 of the zoning regulation.
Oh, no, the section 12 is specifically to the 100-foot
It's just,
to a water
it's
course.
hard for me, it's ping ponging a bit,
I'm
so,
sorry, I apologize. I
I mean,
apologize.
this isn't my first rodeo, but,
No,
but
no. I know, I should have been a little bit more clear.
We don't
about-
do a lot of subdivisions in Washington because nobody subdivides land here. It's like,
I
people tend to buy
understand
large
that.
pieces of land and put big huge houses on it.
Exactly.
And it's like, so,
Exactly. No, this is, I know, my understanding, it's been a long time since you've actually seen subdivision. application
well,
Of
yeah, and-
any
and-
size.
yeah, the last one was 6 lots and then ended up being 4 because the applicant messed it up, but I won't go there.
Yeah.
But,
No, that's okay.
but
But I'm hopeful that this helps the commission understand why, and to Marjorie's point, is why we just think the application itself is not complete and needs to be revisited to address specifically comments that I've made and the comments that I think she's made. And which also, I think, will end up sending this back to wetlands, and then therefore you're starting over again.
Thank you.
Which
You're
is a good thing because 119 acres being changed from its current previous agricultural use and its wooded character should be developed properly. I would also note that in the 2 memos that you received from the land use administrator, they refer to a stormwater management plan with a reference to section 7, and they refer to easements, proposed easements. And, you know, merely showing this access way on a map is not adequate under your regulations because easements have characteristics, attributes, prohibitions, distribution of responsibility. You need the document and your regulations say that you need the document. So those things remain missing. So we submit that the commission has the ability under this conversation to deny the application is incomplete under section 3.6.1. Or the commission can continue the public hearing and obtain a request and consent to extension, because I suspect that we are in a statutory clock
we are.
moment,
Mhm.
but there are probably extension days available, though I don't know the answer to that question. Or the applicant can withdraw the application and start anew with a complete showing that gives this commission and hopefully also the Wetlands Commission the information that it needs to execute your role within your jurisdiction and under your regulations. So we're grateful for the opportunity to share this information with you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Paul, would you do?
I'll wait for everyone to speak and then I'll just do one rebuttal at the end if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the commission or comment or question? Yes, ma'am. Please just say your name and your street.
I'm Mahanish. I live on 52 West Church Hill Road.
Mhm.
And for 30-some years, I did go on Upper Swamp Road to my work twice a day. And over there, twice a year, there were white ring-necked pheasants gathering on the cornfield. And that was quite an exceptional sight for me every year, twice. If there will be one building that Mr. Whitehead wrote in his will, probably it won't affect it, but with a larger amount of buildings, the cornfield will be gone and so will be pheasants. For me, it would be awful loss.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm at 44 Upper Churchill Road. My name is Wendy Lures. And one of the things that I noticed, and we've had neighborhood meetings and everybody is very, very aware of the fact that Washington wants to maintain its rural agricultural type. It's why we all love it so much and why everybody walks on Popple Swamp from all over the town. And we would hope that, and there's a question centered right across the street from where these 2 houses are planned on Popple Swamp, where they're gonna be crowded right in there. And I would hope that Mr. Schiller and the other people would there's nothing wrong with having a couple of houses on an interior lots. But to stick them right on Popple Swamp and destroy the last open ridge, agricultural ridge in Washington, especially in Washington Depot, is something that I think the zoning and planning, I know you're required by all the legal part of it and all the regulations, but there is something to be said for the reason that this town is so popular and so many people want to live here and so many people use that open space. The second thing is that the notice about this public hearing was hidden behind a bush halfway down Upper Churchill past Popple Swamp, when in fact it should have been on the corner. That's the notice of a public hearing. And so who places those signs?
The applicant.
And so that is something that should be noted by this group. That if you're going to have another public hearing, you should put the sign where everybody can see it, not behind a bush, halfway down on a dirt entry. Which it's really important that I know that Mr. Schiller wants to have good relations with all of us neighbors. And everybody, we were the original farm on Church Hill. It was a Churchill farm long. And so we all are pleading that you look at the rural agricultural open space possibility of creatures and critters going back and forth across those fields as they have been always, when you consider this.
Thank you. Yes.
Catherine Taza, I live on Schofield Hill Road, and a lot of my land borders Edward Whitehead's land. Just a couple comments. I was looking for a lost dog when I noticed the sign in the middle of the night. I found it very easy to see. So I had no problem locating that sign. And the pheasants were brought in by Washington Rod and Gun Club. They are not native to the area. Native is rough grouse and wild turkeys. So the pheasants are there because they were purchased and released for hunting purposes. And if you're not going to have fields that you can hunt any longer, that the birds won't be there if Washington Rod and Gun doesn't put them there. If you want pheasants, you can go buy some and release them on your property. Edwin Whitehead supplied me with hay for the whole time I lived on my property. My property is hayed by, first it was hayed by George Whiting, then it was hayed by John Kimberly. Climate change has made it almost impossible for these farmers to operate. Either they have so much rain that they can't, the hay has to be cut and you have to have enough dry days for the hay to cure, and then they can harvest it. So if they can't, with climate change, it's killing the agriculture in the area. John Kimberly is determined to keep a farm. He wants to have a farm. And he said to me the other day, he put in a dairy business. And he said to me, and I was there one day.
I buy stuff from his dairy business.
Right.
It's a-
He said to me, I was there on a rainy day and we went through a stretch where there was really bad weather and people weren't going to the stand. And he said, I can't believe I opened another business that was dependent on the weather. You can want it to be agricultural, but unless you're the person that plans on farming the land, I don't think you have a right to say what the use of the land is. Because with all the climate change, and Edwin said that, and John Kimberly said the same thing, with climate change, it's almost impossible. Like Edwin had a dairy farm and he couldn't continue doing that because he couldn't compete with the large scale dairy operators. it wasn't feasible. So unless you plan on buying the land yourself and running a farm yourself, that I don't think that you have the right to tell people what exactly they can do with the land. I live on Schofield Hill Road. Would it be nice if there weren't 100 Teslas running down the road every day? Yes, it would, you know. But that's the way it goes. We have changes, but pheasants, if you want pheasants, you can go buy some and release them.
Thank you. Okay. And just as a reference, it's like both single-family homes and farming are permitted uses in this district. So it's somebody who has a piece of land that is farm is under no obligation to keep it as a farm, and somebody who has a piece of land that's a single-family home has no obligation to keep it as a single-family home. They can go back and forth in this town. They're both permitted uses. Anyone else? Margie, do you have anything new for us?
I do.
Okay, as long as it's new.
It's new and it's relatively short.
Thank you.
So to the Washington Planning Commission members, thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the subdivision application. Since first hearing about the proposal 2 days before the start of last month's public hearing, continued today, I took a further look at Washington's planning documents, including the current plan of conservation and development and Washington's current natural resource inventory. I provide the following information for your consideration. The property at 37 Popple Swamp Road includes a portion of one of Washington's 18 documented scenic areas identified for special protection in Washington's NRI. It encompasses most of the headwater areas for Walker Brook. These are particularly sensitive areas of watershed that merit great scrutiny during development. Every effort should be made to minimize impervious cover in these areas. It possesses multiple documented vernal pools, one of which is located close to the proposed driveway as it enters the property from Upper Churchill Road. The best management practices for protection of vernal pools is for construction and development to be set back at least 750 feet from the vernal pool boundary. It includes a potential greenway running along the entirety of its western border. This was identified as a potential recreational asset for the town to pursue in Washington's NRI. It is identified as agricultural land in 2014's Plan of Conservation and Development on the existing land use map, and is proposed to remain as agricultural land within the conceptual future land use map. A few other considerations. Washington subdivision regulations stipulate that subdivisions, quote, shall be planned and designed in general conformity with the town's plan of conservation and development. You guys know that.
We do.
At last month's planning commission meeting, the public was informed that the town of Washington had met its 30% open space goal, up from 27% cited in the 2014 POCD. As such, there's no need for the town to seek additional funds for open space at this time, and any proposed fee in lieu of an open space set aside should be declined by the planning commission, since there is no longer any stated purpose for such funds. Instead, the required 15% open space set aside should be implemented in order to preserve the important on-site natural resources, the vernal pools, wetlands, watercourses, and headwaters, together with the important views highlighted in Washington's NRI. Last month, the Planning Commission was waiting for Health Department sign off on the proposed septic systems for each of the lots. It was noted during last month's start of the public hearing that many of these proposed septic systems were located in areas that, based upon the test pit data, meet the definition of wetlands. Signs of groundwater, aka modeling, within 2 feet, 24 inches of the surface. A number of intermittent watercourses, I think we covered that a bit. A number of intermittent watercourses are identified on the various SD plan sheets. For example, see SD1, southeast corner, SD2, the northeast corner. But the 100-foot upland review area associated with these watercourses is not yet shown on these 2 sheets, and once added in will necessitate relocation of various structures. Careful review of all wetland and watercourse features show that a few of the lots have been shoehorned in to the only non-wetland areas on the property, but those areas require additional scrutiny since modeling is evident within 24 inches of the surface. So, the property at 37 Popple Swamp Road bears many important natural resources, important scenic vistas, and potentially important recreational features.
It is not yet clear that 5 separate lots can be safely fit into this headwater area. It is my hope that the applicant will be responsive to the findings above and consider modifying the subdivision proposal to protect these many resources. It is also my hope that the planning commission will provide guidance to the applicant that is based upon the guidance documents that they and other Washington commissions have generated through the years. What's the use of developing such guidance and documents if they're not championed and followed? Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Marty. Anyone else? Paul, you're on.
Okay. Good evening to the record, Paul Samansky, professional engineer, representing the applicant, Mr. Schiller.
Could you keep your voice up, please?
Yeah, for the record, Paul Samansky, professional engineer, representing the applicant. Just going through the various items that are brought up. As the commission knows, there was a joint site walk that occurred between the Wetlands Commission and the Planning Commission. At that meeting, it was discussed in detail as it related to the merger of the driveway at the entrance. It was asked if the Wetlands Commission would like us to provide those plans to us. We can testify for the record that they said no, so we thus did not. You did request it, so we provided it to you. And Wetlands said because it was conceptual at this point, and it was discussed, it was simply to show feasibility that they felt sufficient to make the recommendation to this commission. That was then, that's the part that was discussed at the actual Wetlands meeting itself. I'm not going to discuss Wetlands concerns because it's not germane to this commission, with the sole exception of the setback regulation. What was spoken of as well, it's section 12.1.1 says no structure except the fence shall be located within 50 feet of any water body, water course, or wetland. It's not 100 feet, it's 100 feet. It's 200 feet as it relates to the stream banks of the Chequalag and Bantam River or Beebrook. That's 12.1.2. And then it says no part of the, but the building served is 50 feet. As it relates to the DEP Stormwater Quality Manual, you'll note that the date of the plans is March 7th, 2024. The Stormwater Quality Manual, which I'll quickly pull up a picture of, was effective date March 30th, 2024. In addition to that, section 1 of the Stormwater Quality Manual has an additional clarification where it says adoption of this manual. The manual will be used for guidance immediately upon its effective date, which is March 30th. Any design that is completed preliminary design phase, approximately 50% of full design as of this effective date, will not be subjected to this updated guidance. That's the first section of the manual. As it relates to easements, no one quoted the actual regulation itself. That section states that prior to the signing of an approved subdivision map by the commission chairman or secretary, the applicant shall provide the commission with all deeds, easements, and restrictions required by the subdivision plans. This includes but is not limited to deeds for all new roads, right-of-ways, drainage areas, and open space. These documents shall be in a reportable form. So it's at the time of signing of the subdivision map by the chairman. We did show the easements graphically on the record map. I'm not going to speak with respect to the pheasants. As it relates to the health department approval, the regulations state prior to 11.21, prior to approving any subdivision with on-site sewage disposal systems, the commission shall have received a report from the Washington Health Department indicating that each lot in the subdivision is capable of supporting an on-site system. It nowhere says that there's a site-specific design. So what typically happens as part of a subdivision approval is we show feasibility. We show that there's the ability for each lot to support a well, primary septic field, reserve septic field, septic tank, house, driveway, and associated infrastructure, which is what we've done. And it states that the on-site sewage disposal system shall be designed and constructed in accordance with the regulations of both the Washington Health Department and the State Health Department. That's 11.2.2. So the town of New Milford, in their sanitary code, which is an ordinance in the town of New Milford, they have a requirement that any seasonal high groundwater that's 24 inches or less requires a curtain tray. Washington has no such ordinance. They do require it sometimes, but it's not an ordinance. And then just for edification, Sherman had a similar thing in their sanitary ordinance. We took them to court, and it was found that it was inconsistent with the Connecticut Public Health Code. So now the Sherman sanitary ordinance is no longer enforced with respect to the requirement of curtain trains for seasonal high groundwater
Well, we don't,
greater than
I-
18 inches.
I don't think we even have an ordinance for
Yeah.
that.
There is none in the town of Washington, but New Milford has one, for instance. I just wanted to point out. As it relates to 10,000 gallon storage tanks for fire departments, what's found over time, this fire departments here are volunteer fire departments. So it becomes a burden on the fire department to ensure that it's not sediment, filled with sediment, that it's actually full. You would have to monitor it to ensure that on like a weekly or monthly basis, and you guys are a volunteer fire department. And those are the discussions that we had with Mr. Kaiser as it related to it. As it relates to drainage, we're proposing 5 lots on approximately 120 acres. It's all sheet flow. There's no development near the roadways themselves. The 2 lots that are on Popple Swamp drain away from the roadway to the central portion of the property. As everyone saw on the site walk, it's extremely level land. There's no steep topography. There's little to no potential for erosion. So we did not provide formal drainage calculations. If you want us to request a formal waiver, then this is my formal waiver request of that. But we didn't feel there was a need for it. That's all I have to offer this. Oh, and as it relates to solar, a lot of the homes are oriented to have the ability to capture the sun. And you have the entire westerly portion of lot 1, the southerly and westerly portion of the rear of lot 2, lot 3. The roof could easily support it, lot 5 as well, and same thing with lot 4. I mean, as you know now, solar technology has greatly changed since when this first became a requirement in the planning regulations. At that time, it was more of looking at it from a passive perspective as it related to sun going into the home to warm it. It wasn't necessarily solar panels on the roof. It was, unless I'm wrong, correct me, tell me I'm wrong.
In full confession, all the solar requirements in our subdivision regulations are cribbed verbatim from the state
Yeah, that's
requirements.
what I
Yeah, they're literally cut and paste.
Yeah,
They always have been.
and as time's gone
They're
on,
there because they have to be there.
technology's changed and panels have the ability to produce significantly greater.
And, you know, we only know this because we recently revised the subdivision
Right.
regulations and noted that some things that are in our subdivision regulations are there because
Yeah.
the state says they have to be in there and the state provides the language, so we literally, it's cut and paste.
And then as it relates to the design detail of the plans themselves, as part of the subdivision process, this is, like I said, it's to show it can support development. Once this is, respectively, if this is approved, at that point, then we go back to the Wetlands Commission with site-specific designs for each of the lots. And then we go to zoning staff as it relates to demonstrating zoning compliance, as it relates to setbacks, building height, impervious coverage, lot coverage, things of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Could you entertain a clarification?
sure, why not?
You're a generous chair.
Oh, it's like, it's okay.
First, I want to return the agendas I inadvertently walked away with. Attorney Marjorie Shansky, for the record, section 3.5, your waiver provision requires that it
4.5.
3.5. I just printed these. Are these not current?
Are you working from the same, we revised our, I don't think you have the current.
I got these on your website.
We have the current ones on the website.
I'm just looking at the font, and the font looks like the old one.
So let's call it 4.5.
Okay.
The section is not important as long as the text is the
No,
same.
I'm saying because we flipped chapters 3 and 4, which makes me think that you have the old version.
Oh, that's interesting. Sad.
But,
In any case, you may want to verify that the applicant shall request the waiver in writing is still the operative directive
yes,
in your current regulations.
is.
So section 7 is not being met. I appreciate, and it is true that the stormwater manual was revised in 2024, and that there is a sort of safe house, what do they call that? Fail-safe sort of provision as to when 2024 applies as to where 2004 leaves off. But Mr. Lanker's testimony, and of course I'm not speaking for him, he's right there, he can say this himself, is that the plan doesn't comply with the 2004 stormwater manual either, and given the scale of development, it should. And I want to say that the tragedy of the bit-by-bit development scheme, as opposed to looking holistically and developing, including easements and their implications, is that wetlands are an integrated web of nature. That's what the invocation of the Wetlands Act says. And all of these things operate together. They don't operate on a parcel by parcel basis. We talk about watersheds not respecting political lines. So we lose so much. And the potential for loss is so great in not looking holistically at what is proposed and looking at it in sufficient detail as your regulations require. And I would only say, because one of the speakers said it, when I started reviewing the apparently outdated regulations, I started with the statement of purpose. And it is that statement of purpose and the subdivisions in that are given life through the sections of the regulations that require a response from an applicant. The commission doesn't have what it needs for this application to get the review to which the commission is entitled. The applicant has not established its eligibility for the permit it seeks, and I would urge that the section 3.6.1 incomplete provision, if it's still section 3.6.1,
4.6.1, but
because 3 and 4
3 and
changed,
4 are changed.
4.6.1 be the basis on which the commission asks the applicant respectfully to give it more information, the information to which it's entitled under the regulations. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just also bring up something regarding the septic setbacks that are mentioned in the zoning regulations? That is up for revision, consideration for revision.
That can't be, we have to base it on what the.
Yeah,
the
exactly, but I just
regulation is
wanted
at
to,
the
I
time.
just wanted to point that out because the health department has requested that we take that out. Because the health department should be regulating that, not the zoning commission.
Okay, well, that. I would agree with their assessment, but,
But so
Well,
far,
but-
it's not been taken out.
but we have to use the regulations that are in place as of the
Yeah,
date of the
yeah,
application. That's,
Yeah. Okay.
that's not negotiable.
Okay.
I might just, two other.
You may.
Just please, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just regarding Mr. Samansky's comments concerning the drainage itself. Your regulations are very specific. It doesn't say because I'm providing sheet flow, I don't have to do an analysis. It says you shall. The fact that they have not provided anything, that to me is just grounds for, at this point, either they withdraw or, you know, you extend the hearing to ask them to do something. Because all the water drains south towards the property to one of the other joining properties. Now, regardless, we do not know whether these driveways are gonna be made of gravel or whether someday they're gonna be paved. But I can tell you as an engineer, we never assume that they're just gonna be gravel because properties are sold. And when they're sold, that next buyer can come in and decide to pave the driveway. So when they do that, you have to, it's the fiduciary of an engineer to do worst case scenario and make sure that the public is very much aware of that. So the regulations again are specific on the drainage. And then on the septic side, the fact that the health department has indicated that they may require curtain drains is a indication to you that at least you ask, what happens if we have to put them in? What does that mean in terms of how it affects this application? Because that is, again, worst case scenario. And the fact of the soils on this site, high groundwater modeling, almost poorly drained. They're gonna be required to do it at the end of the day. So let's just do it now. So we can see where that impact is and where it goes to a wetlands commission. And then regarding the fire marshal, cisterns, I've never heard anybody in my life ever tell me that a fire marshal or town is not going to, because they are a volunteer fire department. Okay? We have it in Southbury, have it in Roxbury, have it in Woodbury. Every single one of those are volunteer fire departments, and every single one of them in a situation, when there's a cistern, they want it. Yes, they have to go through and evaluate, they check them once a year. But the fact is, it provides to the public safety. And that's what the fiduciary is of an engineer and of a commission, to protect the public's interest, not somebody's pocketbook. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry if people are getting a.
I just have one quick thing, Lynn.
Yes, oh, please,
Everyone's done, I just want to conclude quickly.
yes, you may. You're representing the applicant,
Yeah.
you get the last word.
Attorney Shamsky's correct that technically I should request for a waiver of section 7 in writing, so if I could just have my letter and just amend that to add section 7 to it.
This is according to section open space.
Yeah, that's the one, thank you. Writing is writing.
Paul,
Yeah, go ahead.
we have the public hearing clock is running on this, a public hearing. We will have to close this public hearing this evening unless you request an extension. Do you want an extension?
With this being submitted, I feel comfortable with the public hearing closing.
Okay.
And then in conclusion, just want to thank you for your time. I know the pay is not great.
Yeah, well, you could dock my pay, but we don't get any. It's like, okay then. Having heard all public comment, once, twice, I would entertain a motion that we close this public hearing. So moved. Second. Oh, Jennifer's here. Jennifer, have you been here the whole time?
Yes. I came a little late, but been here for about half an hour.
And we're still on baby watch?
Oh my God, yes. Mhm.
Yo, mama.
We're with you in spirit, dear. Okay, all in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Okay. The public hearing is closed. Thank you, everyone. I will now open the regular meeting of the Washington Planning Commission to order. And I will seat the same 4 people, and I will seat Jennifer, since she is now here. Okay, first order of business on the agenda was to approve the minutes of our last meeting. I reviewed them. I have no revisions or corrections.
I move that we accept the minutes.
Okay. So second, motion is second to approve minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Hold on. There we go. Okay, motion to include items on the agenda. Does anyone have any member have anything they want to place on the agenda and that's not
God,
on
no.
here?
No.
God, no. Going once, twice. All right. New applications. We have no new applications this evening.
Yeah.
Yay. Pending applications, Arthur H. Holland and Associates for Schiller 37 Poplar Swamp Road, 5-lot subdivision. Okay,
that about?
what's that? Okay, now the public hearing is closed. We can accept no more materials or comment or anything on this application. We have, I thought, 35 days to make a decision on this, I think, by
I believe
statute.
so.
I think it's, I believe, so if we don't come to a decision tonight, we can come to a decision at our next regularly scheduled meeting. That fits in within the time window. I'm pretty sure it's 35 days.
Yes.
Right. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is 28 days from now, so if we don't make a decision here, we get another bite at the apple.
Should we entertain some discussion about it now?
Yes, I think we should. I mean, even if we don't come to a decision, I think there's a lot to discuss. Would you like to?
You're actually within 65 days after the.
65.
completion of the
Whoa,
hearing.
that's good.
Please don't tell me. It's gonna take that long.
Paul, you get paid as we go, don't you?
Is he the only one? Oh, no, there's a couple people getting paid for this, but none of them are us.
I just have a point of clarification.
Mhm.
My understanding was that what we were supposed to be doing was looking at a feasibility, not a finality. And that the concept of a feasibility was a prudent requirement of an applicant when purchasing a property to show what could be done, whether or not it will be done. Am I somehow misinformed here, that we're looking at something that is in of itself not a final concept, and thereby, I mean, what is the difference between our looking at a feasibility and somebody coming to us with a 20-lot subdivision of 115 acres and saying, this is what we're going to do, period, end of story, and we've done everything to the T's that is required by law, and we then have to pick through it and say yes or no. But I'm a little confused as to if we're looking at something that has, by nature, is a feasibility, to what degree of specificity are we required to hold the applicant? I'm just trying to pick a.
Well, they have to demonstrate in their application that, well, first of all, they have to demonstrate that what they're proposing is feasible. Right, it's feasible.
Hence the word.
But they can't, but a subdivision is a subdivision. It's like, they can't decide, oh, well, we know this is feasible, but we're gonna change the boundary line over here, or we're gonna change where we're gonna site the home over there. That, now they can show, for example, like, for purposes of subdivision, they have to show that it's possible that in this case, a single family home can exist in all these lots and abide by all of our regulations. Okay, now, does that mean that where they're showing a house on a property is where that house will ultimately end up? Maybe not, but it's, when they actually go back to develop that specific parcel, they have to show, okay, this is where the house is going to be, and these are the setbacks. At this stage, they just need to show that a house could comply on that parcel.
And when they go to specifics, then that specificity is a requirement of zoning, not of us, or does it
Well,
come
starts
back?
Zoning
with,
and wetlands.
well, starts at
And,
wetlands.
well,
Or
wetlands, of course, yeah.
Actually, health
Well,
is gonna have to look
but
at it
it
again.
goes
inland
through the
wetlands,
whole
and then, yeah, it goes
process,
through the whole
but it's
process.
it's not in our court at that point.
Correct,
Unless they're going to change the lot lines,
correct.
then it would have to come back to us. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
So as long as the lot lines remain fixed, then we're no longer required to supervise the development. It then becomes a land use process, zoning, health,
Mhm.
wetlands, et cetera.
Correct.
All right. And building
And
code,
building.
and, yeah. But I mean, in terms of our planning function.
Right.
Feasibility is what we're, I mean, because we have looked at other subdivisions, and those have come to us as a fait accompli. And we have said, no, you screwed up and you have to redo it.
Mhm.
Because
That
it
has
wasn't.
happened. That has
Right,
happened.
and that has happened.
Mhm.
But I'm just trying to get an understanding of where our authority and jurisdiction lies with this particular moment. I think to have a little clarification about some of the legal points over the next 30 days would be very helpful. Because there have been some concerns brought up, and we have the time to require somebody look at that, but I think,
Well, we could have our council take a look at this.
yeah.
I mean, we rarely use our council, we
No,
certainly have money in our
it'd be good
budget
to
for
wake them up,
it.
yeah.
It's like,
Um,
actually be nice to talk to Karen.
Yeah,
I haven't talked to her in a long time.
But
Yeah.
I have to say that the thing that has bothered me since the beginning is that everything that has been a significant complaint of the process has actually been something that should have been looked at, should have been addressed as the public to wetlands, because we got a review from wetlands, which we take on face value generally. And if the concerns of, I mean, I don't even want to get into isn't it nice to walk along Popple Swamp? I mean, that just, okay, but nonetheless, I mean, I understand that there are wetland specificities, but that's not our thing. We listen to it politely, but it's not our problem.
Well, there's several issues here. I mean, this, and I don't want to mean this disparagingly at all, because I think everybody who's, people who spoke here spoke cogently
Yeah.
and clearly, and they made their best cases, but it's hard in the moment to wrestle with a he said thing. But as I see it, there are some issues here that we might benefit from some review by our council, the
Absolutely.
planning council.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good preliminary step here. Because although there have been some clarifications, there still are some issues here where obviously there's some.
Well, I would
disagreement.
Yeah, I would
And
feel a
it's
lot
like-
better knowing that we're on solid ground. Yeah.
And I'm, I mean, and for one, whether wetlands acted properly or not, I have no way of,
It's not our concern.
I have no way of passing judgment.
I'm just saying that it
I
makes
can't.
it difficult
It's
as a member of a commission to be given, to be not assailed, but to be presented with a lot of complaints about somebody else's job, when that's not what I'm supposed to be here listening to.
Right.
And I'm not disparaging wetlands for having done what they did. I mean.
Or the health district.
Or the health district, or anybody else who
can't-
came before us,
Yeah, no,
all
it's-
well intended to say, oh, by the way, there's a pheasant here.
No, yeah, I get your point, as planners, we have to rely on the wetlands commission, we have to rely on the health district, we have to rely on the fire marshal, we have to rely on these other people
Yeah.
whose opinions we seek beforehand,
Right,
and they give us their feedback or whatever, and we,
And
You know.
you also, because this came up with another situation, this commission doesn't have the, whatever purview to tell the fire marshal or the health department, et cetera, how
Well,
to
yeah,
write a report.
I mean, I think in general I think the public, when concerned about a particular issue, very often comes to the first bump in the road that they can find, and they address us. But it is frustrating to not be able to respond to them, because it's not in our purview to be able to. And so they come on going, well, those guys didn't say anything. Well, yeah, you know? So but I think we should make sure that we have our legal people look at it, make sure that we're,
I think that's probably our first course of action. What do we think?
yeah.
It's like, Carol, you're a retired attorney. It's like, I think, do you think maybe we run this by Carrie Olson? I think that's a first step, right? And make sure, I mean, because look, there are several options, but, you know, not that I'm here to protect the planning commission, but, you know, the last thing we want is to make a decision and then realize that we somehow didn't dot an I or cross a T, and then we acted improperly when we can easily just consult our legal counsel and make sure that we don't act improperly. It's like, it's, you know, I think that's probably the best thing to do. So we should, I think that's a good first step. Let's run this by Carrie.
Can we talk tomorrow or whenever, and you can give me a list, we can work on the list that we should be asking her.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, you know, is she the counsel for wetlands as well? Oh, okay. She's not. Okay. Because I don't know which commission uses which attorney. I mean, I think zoning still uses Ziska, right?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. CBA too?
CDA uses this guy.
Okay. Okay, so are we kind of agreed here that maybe the way to go here is let's run this by council. She may be able to at least kind of cull the herd here and get us to where we can actually focus on the things that are really truly planning issues. I don't want to get in the weeds on wetlands issues.
Yeah,
It's
and that's
not-
my point.
That's not where
And I don't
that's not our
feel,
pay grade.
I
you
don't
know,
feel
it's like-
comfortable commenting on wetlands either. You know?
It's not what we do.
It's not what I,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm not, it's not
Okay,
anything I know anything about.
so we,
Well, I live in one, there's that.
everybody in this town lives somewhere. It's like, is there a property that doesn't have that? I mean, I do. It's like, I mean, I have it in my backyard. Okay, so we can continue this item, so we can continue these deliberations
Yes.
on this agenda item to our next meeting, and in the
Yes.
interim, we will reach out to planning council,
Mhm.
and I think we should just ask council for a review.
Yeah.
Okay, and ask for a full review.
And
just-
make them aware of some of the.
Well, she'll have
public
access
input,
to the recordings.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
So it's like, if she wants. It's like- So, okay, so are we good with that for now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue this to our next meeting. Before we render a decision. In the interim, we'll send it to council.
yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Paul.
Paul.
Good night. Okay, we got some fashion news here.
Oh, we have good news?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
well,
Yeah, what?
it's like, next item on the agenda, is a referral from the zoning commission. Proposed definition and regulations for section 21 and 13 regarding recreational club facilities.
Mhm.
I don't know if he is still
No.
on Zoom, is he not?
No,
Okay, we received a letter prior to the meeting this evening from the president of the Washington Club, notifying us that they are withdrawing their petition
Oh, thank God.
from
Oh.
the zoning commission regarding the proposed language
Yeah.
regarding uses,
you.
recreational club facilities. Thank you. And
And to your point,
And
we
it's
all
like,
have wetlands on our
are you
property.
coming next month or whatever? It's like, because if you do, we could like have dinner. It's like, it's like, call, yeah. It's like, they have withdrawn their petition to the zoning commission, so any referral we would make at this point is moot.
Excellent.
So,
I like making decisions.
okay. Moved, okay. Committee reports, if available. Sustainability Committee. Carol, do we have?
Well, I
any
can give you
news?
a quick rundown, I guess.
Okay, quick is good.
I'll make it real quick.
It's real good.
So the one thing I did do, remember we were talking about giving a tax break for landscapers and as an incentive to use electric.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
This is in sustainability we were
Right.
discussing. So I pursued that and nobody gives any tax breaks for anything.
We'd be
What I
the
was
first.
told.
We'd be the first.
Yeah.
Well, we've been the first before.
Well, I mean, that's
It's
right.
like,
So.
it's not a crazy idea. I mean,
I don't think so either.
I don't know if a landscaper got a local tax break, if they switched to
But
electric.
I don't know.
I mean,
anything else from there.
I mean, what kind of tax break would we give? So we give them a tax break on their property tax for their equipment.
Yeah, so they.
Yeah.
So if they
pay
switch to
back-
electric, they wouldn't be, yeah, that
We
could
have-
actually
we
be a
have an
decent amount of
example.
money.
We have an example in the books for solar equipment that's like from the seventies. It's not for landscaping,
Right.
but there's tax abatement in our regs or ordinances, not
Yeah, I'd
regs.
be willing to
For all
testify,
sorts of different things.
having battery powered lawn and property maintenance makes me so happy. I can go out there with my hedge trimmer, I don't have to start it. I just cut
I have an
everything up.
electric chainsaw. I got it for Christmas.
Oh
Isn't
my
that the
God.
ultimate
And my
man Christmas
lawnmower,
present?
I
I got
just,
an electric
I don't have to
chainsaw.
start it.
too, so it's not
just for
men.
Okay,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah,
And-
you go,
And
girl.
my girls got it for me and I was initially like, oh, that's nice, I'm so thoughtful, thank you, and then I used it, I was like, this thing is great.
Yes, most men would be intimidated if they came into my garage. I have
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of-
Well, yeah. But, so,
Yeah,
I mean, now,
I think it's a great idea.
but yeah, I mean,
It'd be
even if
interesting
it's
to
just
see
the
if we can
trimmers,
form
or, I mean, obviously the big
The-
riding
the-
mowers,
the
they're not gonna be able
blowers.
to replace.
No, but the blowers,
the
it would be
blowers.
great if we could replace the damn blowers.
So who do we
Mhm.
approach on this, the selectmen?
Yeah, I think it's a board of selectmen.
Well, or,
So
Maybe I can go to one of their-
in order to have a new ordinance, we would need to get language approved
Yeah.
from the sustainability committee, move it along to the selectmen, who would move it to a town meeting. So
Mhm.
it takes a couple months, but I think the last thing we had talked about as sustainability committee though, is we pulled the list of businesses, we were gonna see if there were even enough businesses that would be able to take advantage of it, and if they were interested, we were gonna talk to the landscapers themselves.
Okay.
But I suppose we
Well-
could always put it on the books as an
Well,
incentive.
my guy lives and works here, I mean, my guy's in
Yeah.
Washington, so I could just ask him.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd be great.
I mean, I
That'd be great.
approached somebody and
So-
they already use
Mhm.
electric, so.
Okay.
Question, I'm the lawn guy for Depot Dog.
Okay.
Do I
Not a lot of
qualify?
lawn.
Yeah, well, I'm soon to not be a property.
Yeah.
owner,
It's like,
But the business is here.
yeah, it's like, well,
Maybe
Well,
there's a business tax
if you claim
break.
it on your taxes,
that's right.
whereas
I'll
equipment.
go
is
electric, let me tell you.
Yeah, okay, well, that's, I kinda like the, I mean, yeah, even, I don't know, I mean,
Even if we are the first, who cares?
yeah, I'm, hey, if you wanna be the first in something, this is one of the things you wanna be the first on, I mean, I would think, right? I mean, so. I mean, the prices are basically at par at this point for this equipment, I mean, so.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like we're forcing them to like, and of course, so they could be like, you know, I mean, these guys, you know, they're going through like trimmers, like they probably replace them once a year. I mean, so it's like, you know, they could say, well, I'm not gonna do it right now, but when this one goes,
Yeah.
I'll switch to electric, and then all of a sudden, boom, my
So then what
tax
do they
bill goes
do, like
down, and then
submit
maybe
Paperwork?
they do it little by little, and it's like, and.
yeah, it would be
Just
with
like-
the assessor, you know, on the form when they
Oh,
have
right,
all
right,
their
right.
equipment.
When they have to list
write off
their-
on the Form, it would,
I hate those
it would be, I do too. It would be
Yeah.
under the exemption part.
Okay, what did I do
And
last year?
really, we thought it was a better as an incentive than going down the ordinance of limiting and, you know, whether it's through time or whatever, like that. We didn't want to be punitive,
Right,
Yeah.
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 and that would be a battle anyway. And there's
Yeah.
state regs that saying that we can't do that, so
Do
it's.
electric large-scale lawnmowers exist?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
yeah.
do.
They have, and they'll run all day long?
Well, it doesn't run all day.
I think they'd
And
have to have
that's-
a couple of batteries.
I think-
They have, all the equipment can be electric now.
Yeah, they have to have multiple battery packs, so they probably have to swap the batteries out at
Swap
lunch,
them out.
you know?
See, on the, on an equip, like Scott Peterson mows my lawns.
Mhm.
I don't, you need a lot of electric power
They do.
to run that all day long.
Yeah.
Well, like, I know with some of the equipment, you know, as long as you have multiple battery
Yeah, if you have
packs,
a couple
it'll go as long as you keep swapping out the batteries. I mean, so,
You're talking about somebody
but you know,
commercially.
but I think that I understand what you're saying. I think that, I
Does
think
it exist? It's like
it does
Ford
exist.
told their dealers to sell these electric trucks,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
have terrible range, and if you tow, they have no range.
they're
Right.
not terrible range, it's almost 270 miles.
Well, I think what will happen though with this is that I think the
Lighting.
landscapers would start with the small equipment
What?
first. Because that's the
Lighting.
easiest, I mean, they got a trimmer, you know, and it'll probably run for several hours on one battery, and if the battery gets old, they just pull it out and they grab another one and stick it in, and boom, they're going. They don't miss a beat. I think that they would be hesitant to switch to the large mowers, only because they have so much money sunk into their current
Yeah.
ones.
They're
So
very
that's gonna
expensive.
be, but in terms of
Really
in terms of the smaller equipment.
Yeah.
I could see them switching out right away, because they go through that stuff so fast anyway, and if the electric one is the same price basically, and all of a sudden they lower their tax bill. You know, there's no reason for them not to do it. I mean, you're gonna hate me, but I never had to pay taxes on my equipment. My
Yeah, you
recording
told me
equipment.
you were
Because
under
we're,
exemption.
we're, recording equipment is under the film, you know, the film exemption. So, audio and video equipment, and, you know, because of to boost like movie industries and whatever. So
Random.
I technically qualified, and
You
know, my
skated
business-
right through
my
there.
business, no, I mean, I did it by the book. We even called the guy, we brought him in, we showed him all our equipment, and they said we complied, so I never had to pay taxes on my recording equipment.
That's nice for you.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sorry,
there was one other thing at sustainability that
yes,
I
okay.
thought planning, or did you have something else too?
Well, go ahead, you may cover it.
Because I thought you all would be interested, Jim Burton came to the meeting to talk about the intersection between the Conservation Commission,
Take a seat, so they'll hear you on the owl.
Conservation Commission and sustainability, and the fact that because conservation is not really purchasing land, but switching gears towards maintaining and enhancing what they have. We were talking about how that overlaps with what sustainability is already working on with invasives and the hiring of interns and working with Steep Rock to get the invasives off Steep Rock property, the town property, and so these conserved properties. They were also talking about enhancing, like with pollinator gardens and some of the properties that are owned. So we suggested that actually they go to a town meeting to modify the ordinance for the open space to allow enhancement to preserved open space. Because right now, the ordinance only allows the purchase, acquisition.
I know, I know I've spoken with Brian about that, I've spoken to Jim about that, and that is at the time for that is absolutely
So,
coming.
yeah, I've talked to the conservation could definitely be folded into another committee. And, a lot of towns don't even have it in their land use, it's run by the selectman's office. So, and exactly, they're not purchasing any more land. The land that we have, it's hard to find somebody to monitor it.
It's
They wanted the
it's
zoning,
discontiguous.
yeah, the zoning
It's-
enforcement, wanted the enforcement officer to do it and before me, and it was, no. So that there's no time for that. That was part of their job, was to monitor the conservation easements.
It's true.
Anyway, so
Okay.
that was an interesting conversation with the
Okay.
Sustainability Committee about.
Great, anything else for sustainability, Carol, or
I
did she?
think that's about it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, some road cycling
Basics, we
stuff,
talked
but
about
yeah,
basics.
yeah.
Okay,
stuff.
good. Economic development,
So lots of stuff happening, but I thought there were two things that were relevant to planning that you might be interested in. One is the depot walk that Wayne was on with us, which I thought was interesting, and I'm looking forward to the report. On July 31st, we had people from Northwest Hills COG and CT Main Street consultants that come to evaluate your downtown and make suggestions with the goal of a thriving downtown, vibrancy. And so we had a very interesting conversation because they had a hard time. They didn't see the municipal parking signs that I had put up. So I actually went and moved it.
We have one.
Right, so
I noticed it this morning. There's a parking sign right out here pointing to this one
yes,
back
so
here.
I moved it. I had to get guys from the supply because it was hung so high you couldn't see it through the tree leaves. So I moved it down.
Yeah.
I moved it down. Yay! It was funny. I made
Could've
a.
trimmed the
Where'd
tree.
that come from?
Yeah, it's been there for a couple of months, but you couldn't.
Really?
Yeah, but you
Oh.
couldn't see it.
No,
So I
yeah,
just
no,
moved
so
it
now,
down.
yeah,
I just
moving it
moved it
down.
down like a week ago,
Mhm.
right?
So it's
So-
at driver eye level.
Yes, the
Which is
driver, well, it was funny. I was like, well, if you're in an SUV or a truck, it might be a little too low, but you couldn't see it because those little trees there.
Right.
So anyway, so that and a bunch of other things, that
Mhm.
we commented on. We talked about the sidewalks, et
Yeah,
cetera.
it was an interesting walk. The good news, the COG is paying for the
It's through a
report.
grant,
It's
yes.
through a grant, so we're just gonna get this report and it was interesting. They pointed out some obvious things that we knew, but then they said, oh, you do this, and then they had to point out to them that, well, we're a town with no public water or public sewer. And the guy was saying, and he stopped and I was like, he was like, yeah, the whole town's on septic and well, and he was like, and I could tell I knew he had this checklist of things we do, and all of a sudden I just saw in his eye, his face, the whole checklist just went away.
It did.
It
He was
just
kind of
did. You could just see his whole body language, and he was like, okay, I gotta recalibrate here. But
They were
other-
fascinated by that.
they were fascinated,
actually.
yeah,
They were like, wait, what?
Cause
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they were, looking at the depot in a whole new light. They were like, well, this is actually, considering you have no public sewer,
Yeah.
this is actually laid out pretty, not so bad. They were like,
Well,
because I'm
and
sure they
it's-
were ready, well, you could do this, and this, and this.
It's
and then
maxed
that's
out too, the restaurants, the septic, everybody's at capacity, so.
Yeah, unless we wanna I don't know, use the front lawn of the town hall or something. I mean,
There has been conversation about it.
I know, it's like.
Not in my
Or-
committee.
Yeah, boy, wouldn't that
Not
be
for
wouldn't
me.
that be a town meeting?
Well, when we
You
had-
can bring that up, not
when
me.
When we were talking about the plaza, there was some talk about if we're gonna do the plaza, we might why don't we have a septic system put in just in case we need one for housing in the back here? And we don't really need a lawn, we do need septic.
Well,
And it's good for the
they're
lawn.
actually, I was just gonna say they can coexist,
Yeah.
so that's the good news.
Anyway,
Anyway, so that will, once that report is shared, I'll share that with planning. I think
Okay.
that could be useful, especially in the,
Well, I think it would just be informative, if
Yeah,
nothing else.
yeah.
I mean, it's always good to get somebody else's view of,
Yeah.
it's like, it can be, sometimes it can be very informative to get somebody who knows
Yeah.
nothing about the town to walk in
Yeah.
and give you their 3 things that they noticed.
Yeah.
Because they might be, 2 of those 3 might be things that we never thought of.
yeah,
You know,
ex-
you don't know.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
I just wanted to bring up also that I did ask, I signed us up for the Yukon Stormwater Retrofit Assessment Opportunity, where they have students come, or people that are studying, the stormwater, maintenance and sustainability. So I told them that we would like to get our highway department involved with the sustainable methods of road maintenance, and that the land use staff and commissions are always looking to ways to assist the town and our residents with information on how to manage stormwater runoff. So I asked that, that they consider us, and he said that they had so many requests that we didn't make it. but that he would put us on the list for next year.
Okay.
Wow.
So
good.
we'll see what happens, because because of all these heavy storms,
Mm.
you know, we're hearing
Mhm.
of all this runoff and
We
my
dodged,
neighbor's
we
water
dodged
is
the bullet
coming in.
last time.
Yeah,
we did.
Oh, boy, did we.
so I just thought, why not? I mean, Bob Papson and I talked, I'm like, yeah, okay, let's try it, anything.
Mhm.
Mark, I'm just gonna keep rolling through.
No, that's all right.
You
Next-
keep
next item,
stopping.
Next item.
So the COG hosts Fifth Thursday trainings, and the last one was tips and tricks for vibrant downtowns. And I attended, and one of the commissioners did as well. And what was interesting is it was
Was that-
hosted,
Last Thursday,
yep, August 29th.
I was gonna do it and I forgot all.
It was really interesting, and I actually learned some of the new stuff, even though I kind of do these all the time. Because this one was how to foster vibrant downtowns through art, innovation, and historic preservation. And they had a woman there from the Office of the Arts, which is a part of the State Office of Economic and Community Development.
ECD.
Yeah, and she pointed out to us the resources that are available on CT Arts Alliance, which they do a lot of like data facts about what the arts bring to your community, what they bring to the state. It's interesting because it's $10.1 billion industry in the state of Connecticut, which beats out construction at 7.8 billion. So, and transportation at 6 billion. So
You're
I was.
preaching to the choir.
I know.
You're
Well,
preaching,
and
yeah,
so I thought it was a good segue, kind of, because the next item on the agenda is the continued discussion of the next P O C D, and including arts and culture under the economic development. I mean, we've got this Arts Council as a committee of the Economic Development Committee, and it's just an area where we're trying to focus because it's something that we have a strength already in our town. It's a low impact industry in terms of land use. You know, we're kind of maxed out building wise, but we have a lot of creative space and a lot of creative people. And so are continuing to work to help them and enhance what they're doing, promote what they're doing, all of that. The work that we're doing on the cultural district to
Do we have
make us
three
eligible.
galleries now in four galleries? We have four galleries in the depot now, right?
Well, it depends on how you count that. I mean, so Hen's Nest actually
Well,
is
five if you count Hen's
if you
Nest.
count the Hen's Nest, and we've got Eckert and KMR and
Judy
WA
Black
and Judy Black.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, and then the Norman Sunshine is
Yeah,
like an
something,
extension of WA, so
yeah.
like on
Because it would
occasion.
be interesting to think of some kind of, between the bookstore and the art galleries to do some kind of town event.
Well, so we were actually
Coordinating
gallery
discussing,
crawl.
well, we
Yeah.
were having,
Yeah.
it's funny you should say that, because we were organizing a
Yeah.
gallery tour. We were in the
Mhm.
works, but didn't have enough time to do that, so we're probably going to do it possibly in conjunction with next year's restaurant week, but to have like a gallery tour on the opening day of the restaurant week. Or at a different time if the galleries feel that that's better. But we, Victoria Roan, who's the chair of the Arts Council, did some outreach to include some pop-up galleries. So some of the real estate spaces, Barbara Bouillet's space, some of the like pseudo retail, like retail, but their services right now, a pop-up artist for the gallery tour so that we could add on to the 4 or 5 established that we had.
I think it should be a crawl.
Yeah.
Crawl?
Yeah, I think
Like
it
a
should be
pub crawl?
Yeah, I think it should be a crawl, and every gallery you walk into, somebody gives you a
shot at
a
each.
kamikaze, you know? I mean,
I will note that down.
There's Wayne leading the
Yeah.
pack.
It has to be a good Chardonnay or,
It's gonna be wine and cheese, come on.
right, yeah.
I'm thinking kamikaze.
No.
All right,
That's
one
your
last thing,
Buffalo
last
New
thing.
Carnell.
You can take the boy out of the Rust Belt, but you can't take the Rust Belt out of the boy.
I know, right? Last thing,
Okay.
the connectivity grant for the sidewalks through Titus we were not awarded this round, but Casey, whose last name I'm forgetting, who's a transportation person at the COG, spoke to DOT, and actually she and Rob Phillips came and did a site walk with me yesterday or the day before, the DOT got less money from the state than they thought they were going to, and we were next in line.
Oh,
I know. They got 10 million instead of the 12 million that they thought, and so they just funded it in order, and we were the next in line. So, but they're probably revamping, we're doing everything we can to get our ducks in a row for the next round, so that we're like good to go. So we're continuing to work towards the DOT encroachment permits, and the engineers are working on some of that stuff, and they've been reaching out to DOT on our behalf, so hopefully in the next round. And they don't know exactly when that next round will be. It depends on when the state releases that. And one of the other grants, TRIP, which is the Transportation Rural Improvement Project, something like that. They're revamping the guidelines to have a municipal 20% match, which they didn't have before. So it's kind of rejiggering some things. So we're looking at what the work that we've already done and seeing if this might also be eligible for that grant as well as the connectivity grant. So fingers crossed on that.
Okay, good luck.
good luck.
Thank
Yeah, I actually have some economic development news. As you know, I've been very frustrated with Frontier's rollout of the fiber. It's like, you know, we've literally, you've been seeing it. I mean, they've literally strung the fiber on, but they haven't lit it yet. I spoke to a contact from way back at Frontier, and it looks like this fall, they're actually gonna start hitting us up with they're gonna light it up, and they're gonna be canvassing the streets where they strung the fiber and give us, you know, it's the same deal that they promised before. $50 flat install for fiber, and you can purchase whatever level of service that you want. But they're sticking with the $50 flat install
That's amazing.
regardless of the length of your driveway, which I can't, they obviously haven't looked at some of the driveways in this town, but they're gonna stick with it. I mean, so, yeah, it's like, but that's what. Yeah, I know.
Wait, what do I have to do?
Yeah, well, that's good news. So once
So-
they're finally finished, then maybe we can do that study to
That's-
see who's not been served.
Right, that when I spoke to the guy, I tried to get like, okay, now that you're gonna start lighting it, I was like, can you tell me which ones he said, well, I don't have it, I couldn't get it. And it's like, we're just gonna have to basically
gonna
wait
be-
until they start lighting it and we see where, we're gonna have to figure it out ourselves.
Where's the dark
Really?
spots?
That's not public information? That's not,
They're a private
Huh.
company, they're a private company, they don't have to, they consider that proprietary information, they don't have to share it.
that's interesting. We'll have to figure out we're gonna figure out where they didn't go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
So how much, like, faster or better is this supposed to be than Spectrum?
Oh.
Is Spectrum
Oh.
not fiber or?
Like-
Way
No, it's
What's the
copper.
difference?
And not only is it
Spectrum is
faster,
copper.
well, not only is it faster, because it's fiber,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
Spectrum's copper. It's copper.
Totally.
Running
Plus
over
the-
Well,
cable.
although they have fiber running to like their nodes, but on the street into your house, it's coax cable, it's fiber. It's a copper, I mean, so, no, but the fiber is faster, but not only that, the fiber is symmetric, which means the signal going out of your house
Hmm.
is as fast as coming into your house. If you work from home, that's a game changer. So,
So you know if Roxbury has it yet?
Well, maybe not.
we're gonna see him over there, he's gonna be like shoving his house, it's like, just a few more feet, and I'll get it in. So, it looks like this fall, they're gonna finally light it up, because I was like, Mary thought I was nuts, the guy came down they came down our street, and they were lashing the
Running
fiber,
up and
and I was out there like talking to them, and like, you guys want a beer? Yeah, it's just like, and,
On our gallery house?
yeah, it was like, so I do, you know, it's, you know, we've seen it being installed, and now they're finally at the point where they're gonna turn it on. So,
Exciting.
and that's gonna be great for economic development. I mean, you know, the realtors, you know, you're gonna start by next year, you'll start seeing realtor ads
Yeah.
that say FTTH on the blurbs and the real estate rags, which means fiber to the home.
Oh,
And for folks who are looking to move
For the
in these
work
parts,
work
who-
from
and
home.
who have
finance.
remote and who are remote workers like me, it's like they see that and they're like, Oh, yeah, let's look at that house.
And it's in the retail depot area too?
Yeah, it's
So do
it's
you mean to say like our Lightspeed point of sale system will actually be faster?
It'll be light speed.
Or at least like decent speed?
Yes.
Yeah, you use
If we
the fiber,
switch.
you
Yeah.
just
We gotta
switch.
switch.
And, you know, so they're offering deals, they, you know, once they do this, they're gonna wanna steal as many customers
Oh,
from
yeah.
Spectrum as they can, and I think that they'll,
I'm willing.
I'm
willing.
Same.
I'm in front of you, sorry.
See how to get in beers.
Yeah, that's right, so,
I'm gonna have to twist my arm.
okay,
All right,
so,
that's.
all right,
That's enough for me.
okay, thank you, Michelle, thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, so P O C D. I'm just gonna say one thing about the P O C D, and then we're not gonna work. It, because of us getting
Slam.
ambushed here by all these things that are going on, who knew that we
Who
were
knew?
gonna, you know, it's like, you know, we sit around here and then there are never any new applications, and we're like, oh, we have all this time to work on the plan, and all of a sudden, we're like, it's 9 o'clock and we haven't gotten to the plan, it's like, we may have to schedule a couple special meetings, I think, in the next couple months, and dedicate them solely to the plan.
That's probably good.
And then that way we can just sit down and get this thing over the finish line, because we're like, you know, we've got this thing like, you know, if it's a football game, we've got this thing like on the 5-yard line, you know, we just need to push it into the end
Will
zone.
there be a deli platter?
Yeah, yeah.
You've been busy though, because I think the one that's online is updated from the last.
Yeah, and I have other stuff too that I haven't added yet, so
Yeah, there are a few places there where it just says
we
to
are,
be determined.
yeah,
We're in the red zone.
we're in the red zone, and I still have to talk to Stacy about the future land use map, that's the one map.
The
we
one that's
don't have.
mucked up.
The one that's mucked up, the other maps are at least good enough to go for a public hearing, so,
Stacy's last name.
Really? Yes,
Okay, so I met her the other
oh,
day.
you did?
Yeah, it's Steve Rock, because they were putting in the little steps for the trout.
Oh,
Oh.
And
okay.
she introduced herself, finally we like clicked, you know.
Yeah. Because you've only, okay, you never actually met in person,
Right.
okay.
What's what are the deadlines here on the P O C D? Like when do we need the hearing by? It's supposed to be done by the end of.
Technically by the end of the year, but
Okay.
the last plan didn't get actually adopted till 2015. It's like, you know, it's like, this is one of those things where the state says this thing, but it's like, the only time it would ever become an issue is if we were like, if you were applying for a planning grant and you didn't have a current plan, they'd say,
Right, right.
where's your current
Well,
plan?
we don't want to do that, but I
No,
just wasn't
but-
sure how
Yeah.
close to the deadline.
And, but, yeah, I mean, the crucial thing is getting it to the point where we can have a public hearing. Because once we get to the public hearing and we get feedback from that, you know, we can craft the final version and then present it to the selectmen. So so the goal is to get this to the point where we can get to a public hearing, and we're not quite there yet. We still need to incorporate some photos of the town. We still need, you know, we want to improve, because right now
My
it's
whole
literally just
chapter.
text, you know?
Yeah.
And which is all we, you know, because that's the content that we really.
And some of the demographic stuff isn't there.
Yeah, I have some of it already. I haven't put in the
Okay.
appendix yet. I have Department of Labor stats that I wanted to put in the appendix. That I have updated, you know, from the Washington by the numbers stuff. You know,
Right.
I have the updated years
Oh,
now, so we
good.
can put that in. The trend lines, they continue, so it actually, what we're talking about in the plan is actually shown in that data, so.
All right, that's good. You know, the one thing, I was just reviewing the draft and then looking online, because we had talked about sustainability and kind of sprinkling that through.
Yeah. Most of what we have sprinkled in there is actually under municipal facilities and infrastructure.
Yeah. I
Because
thought
the
we were gonna
kind we've
maybe
always-
make a statement up front about like
There-
sustainability throughout.
Yeah.
There is a statement in the introduction, but I think we need to maybe
Maybe
make
I
it a little
missed it. I
more-
was kind of skimming. I was like,
Yeah,
the
and
history,
kinda we wanna kind of weave it through,
Yeah, I
the-
think just say a statement saying that, you know.
right, and then
The
because
concept is to
because,
kind of weave
yeah,
it in.
to incorporate, and of course, the reason that most of the sustainability initiatives are in the municipal chapter is that one of the prime goals is we want the municipality, the town, to be an example
Right.
To be as to the extent, the town, I think what we say, the town shall engage in sustainable practices wherever feasible. That's why, it's like, if you want the community to engage in sustainable practices, you have to set an example. What better example than the town itself?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, so, so the extent that's feasible, we're doing some of that already, but that's, that's where you guys are really talking about some of these things that I think are a really good idea. The tax abatements for the guys if they switch to electric, that's the municipality, engaging in sustainable practices and encouraging the community to do so. Hey, you can say, you become sustainable, you'll save money in your tax bill, that gets people's attention, it's like, and,
Well, educate them about what sustainability even is.
yeah, and, well, a lot of times it's, it's like a lot of times you know it when you see it. And it's like, I remember my daughter went to Hotchkiss, they had that power plant.
It's amazing.
On the
Yeah,
campus, and it's like,
Bio,
and
whatever.
when they did that, everybody laughed at them.
Yeah.
And literally, the other schools were laughing at them about that facility. Well, now that facility provides all of the heat for every building on the entire campus. The Hotchkiss school doesn't have an oil bill.
It's amazing.
Nobody's laughing at them anymore. It's like,
No, they were ahead of their time.
yeah, it's like, and yeah, of course, it costs like $7 million to build, of course, but it's Hotchkiss.
Helps
It's
to
like-
have money.
It helps to have an endowment bigger than most colleges, so,
It helps.
but anyway, it's a great example. It's like, and they use it, it's like, have you ever been in it? It's like, I've been in it, inside of it. It's like the wildest
Yes.
looking thing. It's got all
I'm
these
not inside,
huge
outside.
pipes.
Yeah.
It has like the wavy, it has
Yeah,
like
the wavy roof with the
mo-
grass. Yeah,
and it's like,
I've been on the outside,
but
but
the
not the
inside
inside.
is like way cool. It's
Okay.
like, yeah.
We should go on a tour.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
that.
you
Field
golf
trip.
past it, yeah, field trip.
It's nice.
And, the art students go in and make drawings of the pipes and everything inside.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's,
It really calls nerds, doesn't it?
okay, so what I'll do, I think what I'll do is,
Yeah, especially.
well, it's a special meeting. What I'll do is, Shelley, when I sit down with you to get stuff together for Carrie, let's look at the town calendar too and try to find some evenings that aren't conflicts with other commissions. So we can do this via email. We don't, I'll send you possible dates that we can meet and then we'll reach consensus on one. And Jennifer, you could bring the baby.
If I ever have him.
Yeah. Well, we're very grateful that you didn't have him during the meeting, okay?
Oh, no, I am timing contractions right now. I am so hopeful. Leave somewhere.
So are we.
There we go. Okay, so we'll do that by email, and that's it for the plan for tonight.
Okay.
Communications, any communications? Oh, she sent you a notice. There's a land use thing, but it's out in like Haddam. It's far away, but we're all right now, I think we're all current on our training, so.
It's just
We
a
don't-
few.
How many extra
I sent it out to everybody,
Right.
just in case somebody didn't make it. I have it on a list of who didn't go, but
Okay, so
I
I think everyone on planning commission is current.
Yeah.
What is it the new, it's like every 2 years?
Every 2 years, and we all did the bar
Yeah, I
seminar
did it.
last year.
Yeah.
And it's like, administrative business. David may have to resign, depending, he's still hearing from Jim.
He's waiting for
If-
dispensation.
He's waiting for
of a higher
dispensation.
power.
But if it turns out that you have to resign,
Might be in the
I wanted to thank you, want to thank you for your service.
Oh.
And thank you for your dedication and the checks in the mail.
That's a quick, not even 2 years.
Okay, but we'll see, we'll
Looking
see.
at options, yeah.
Okay, and of course, best of luck on your move.
Thank you.
How hard could it
Still
be
in
down the street,
progress.
right?
Oh my
Yeah, it's
God.
like.
How hard? I think I'm losing my leg.
Okay,
Thank you, thank you.
that's it for administrative business. That was my only item of
Yeah.
administrative
No,
business.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to
David,
adjourn the
and a
meeting.
second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Hey.
Jennifer, let us know the moment, okay?
Good luck.
We want the name, the weight, the whole smash, the
The
stats,
whole
okay?
shebang.
Okay, we are
Good luck,
adjourned,
sweetie.
people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Night, keep those contractions going.
I know. Don't let them stop.
I'm telling you.
You
taking
got
from
perfect
the
hair
monkey
during all
bars
these
works.
contractions.
I know.
That's what happened with my son.
Manual labor, digging a ditch, trying to get one.